bibliography in the back, and he mentions C.L.R. James, but see, I just think that there's some work that people need to take up. There's a depth in James's formulations that certain elements in this kind of autonomous tradition need to take up. You could talk about this in relation to, in terms of what the relationship could be or ought to be between, whatever, black liberation struggle and Occupy. It raises a similar set of questions. And it really just boils down to, look, man, there are theoretical resources in this discourse, in this thought, which you have not availed yourself of. And this is not about making me feel better or making me feel included. This is about the fact that there's a weakness in your stuff as a function of your failure to avail yourself of this work. Okay? So I have like a feeling of a certain affinity with what it is that I think shows up maybe as their aims, or even the way in which they articulate that aim at the level of a kind of a way in which you could say, well, yeah, they too are interested in something like the end of an already existing order. But I don't know, what's the best way to put it, I don't think that black study is tangential, can be merely tangential to their project. It's necessary for their project. And their project is enhanced and enriched insofar as they recognize that necessity. But to even talk about that is already to talk about something which, it's almost, frankly, since we're here, why dog Tikkun for a problem that within that political kind of context is the same problem that besets the university, right? See, look, it's not, y'all didn't need me to come here and say this, right? And what I'm trying to say is that, like, you don't need me to come here and say that anybody at this place where we are right now, this university, who's interested in thought, right? And who's interested in the social, not only the social situation of thought, but the social force of thought. You can't really actually say you're interested in thought if you aren't interested in, right? Wilderson's work, Chandler's work, okay, Tiffany's work, Marlene's work. You can't say that. Now, it's 2012. I shouldn't have to say this. And I'm not, and the thing is that if I said it about Socrates or if I said it about Kant, nobody would get upset. And I think it's true there too. But it's equally true, okay? So you see what I'm trying to say? I'm interested in Tikkun and what they do. I have an affinity for what they do in ways that I might not have an affinity for. I'm not here, so I can, let's say, I've been here, I used to teach here. So let's say that there's a certain kind of work. I'm not trying to be an asshole, I'm really not. I'm trying to be specific, right? So I don't necessarily have an affinity for, say, like Brooke Thomas's work, right? It's not work that I'm not, like I feel like there's a certain kinship. I share a certain kind of aim, with these guys from Tikkun. But I'm saying that insofar as I share this aim, I offer this, what I just said as a criticism that would hopefully be constructive. There's some stuff y'all need to read. And you need to read it not in the interest of being inclusive, but in the interest of tightening up your shit. Right? In the interest of getting at where you want to go. Okay? Now, I want to go, I think, something pretty close to where they want to go. So there's an interest there. I'm pretty sure I don't want to go where Brooke wants to go. But Brooke needs to read this work to tighten up his shit too. You see? And it's not that I disavow completely where he wants to go. He reads certain stuff and I want to read it too. It's interesting. And it's worthy of thought. And I just mention him because he's a name I remember, okay, in a certain kind of way. And I remember him around a certain set of arguments. You know. Y'all understand what I'm saying. So if the university is going to be a place where we actually care about thought, then we attend to these matters, we attend to these issues, these questions, we ask these questions. And the reason I bring the university up is because we're here right now. You know, and I don't want to put more pressure or be more sort of pointed in my criticism of Tikkun, who I sort of agree with pretty much, than I would put on the pressure of these folks who, y'all know what I'm saying. So, but it's not about inclusion, and it's not about, oh, it'll make, I'll feel, you know, I'm not ennobled, you know. The black radical tradition is not ennobled by those who deign to turn their eyes towards it every once in a while. It's not for us, it's for you, right? There's something up in here, and we want you to have it. Because we want the world different, right? You know. Please come get this. And stop trying to kill every goddamn thing, right?
I'm thinking of two things. I'm conscious of time, but I'm thinking of two things. First, where you began on Monday, I'm thinking about the mode of your discourse, the mode of your engagement. Both the range of references, the specificity of the references, interplay of the references, and the projection of them, and the reprojection of them in terms of your own locution, your own movement, your own step. That's on the one hand. And on the other hand, what you just said, and I'm thinking of certainly the specificity of the university and even this particular university, but also I'm thinking of taking the reference to your thinking even to another or other horizons. And I'm recalling the following moment. I put this in capitalization. So I gave a lecture of Du Bois to the Japan Black Studies Association. And they've been studying black folk a lot longer than American studies in the US. And I thought I would be welcomed, and in a sense I was. But what I did is I offered Du Bois's perspective as a theorization of Japan. Silence. Not as them being interested in Du Bois or interested in the African-American relation to the American subjects, and therefore, in some internationalist sense, an extension of a liberal perspective or gesture, or as an example of such that might be imitated by Japan in relationship to various configurations of peoples, both in the archipelago and outside of it. So not at all that, not inclusion. But Du Bois has precisely himself engaged with the possibility of Japan. And as one who should be taken up within Japan by Japanese thinkers as precisely their inheritance, just like Kant is more systematically translated into Japanese than he's ever been in English or in the United States, or Heidegger as the most cited figure in Japanese philosophy than any figure in Japanese thought or internationally. Du Bois as a figure who is in fact on their common terrain, thinking precisely side by side with Nishida, and precisely engaging the questions that come in the 1930s that explodes philosophy all over the world. Silence. And I'm interested, therefore, in the poetics and politics, the practical poetics and the practical politics on the order of a jam session, on the order of this way in which you have moved with us for 3 days, thinking about how to reproject that in different fora, in different idioms, in different contexts. So on the one hand, this is obviously a kind of comment, but it's really a question too. In what way might you imagine, other than the demand, read this, a solicitation and an engagement. Okay, let's say the new generation of Japanese, Chinese, Korean, Taiwanese thinkers got their chops up on the black radical tradition, as certain Okinawan thinkers are doing, actually. How do you step into, if you will, a common intramural on another register, scene of engagement, projection, and habitation practice? What would be your thoughts on that?
Well, now this is, see, I mean, here I would turn to the extent of being, critical here. But I'll put it in this real simple, succinct way, which probably then could be elaborated, but I think y'all will know what I mean. This is where a whole lot of, I'll just be blunt. And, I hate to do so in a way that might make certain people think that I'm talking about them or thinking about them when I'm actually not really thinking about them. But in the interest of brevity, which of course I'm obliterating right now, in prefacing endlessly this thing I both want to say and don't want to say. What you're talking about, it seems to me, is the evangelical international responsibility of the black intelligentsia, which I will think of primarily as an intelligentsia located and focused in the United States, although obviously that's, because that's where I'm at.